Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another fantastic show for you today. I'm excited to get to talking about it. Good morning, Lindsey. How are you?
Happy Tuesday. You know, I'm looking for this nor'easter. The news set me on a
You should be looking at the Northeast.
Yeah, but it didn't. It didn't happen. Did anybody else?
Northeast is, which way is that? I can't figure it out. Well, the capital's there. We're south of the No, we're north of the Capitol.
I was the one with MapQuest and Waze and the TomTom and.
I think Northeast is that way.
You tell me.
I think it's that way.
Okay. Well, coming up on Rising, former President Obama is speaking out about President Trump deploying National Guard troops to American cities.
Plus, Speaker Johnson is warning that the current government shutdown could be the longest one ever.
And several media outlets, including right-leaning Newsmax, are refusing to sign onto the new Pentagon press rules. But first, Robby, what's on your radar today?
Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. Do it. Seriously, there's a good argument to be made that the president deserves it. Thanks to Trump, there's finally peace in Gaza, and all remaining living Israeli hostages have been returned. Trump achieved what President Biden could not. He persuaded the Israeli government, which under Benjamin Netanyahu has been extremely reluctant to end the war, to make at least a temporary peace with Hamas, the terrorist group responsible for the October 7 massacre. No one can predict the future, and if the past is any indication, peace often proves to be elusive in this part of the world. That said, there is renewed optimism and a real hope that peace could return, a peace that involves the safety and security of Israel and its people, as well as self-determination and new leadership for the Gaza Strip under a government that wants to live in harmony side by side with Israel. And the man who got it done, Donald Trump, deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Here was the president of Pakistan formally nominating Trump for the prize yesterday.
One of the greatest days in contemporary history, because peace has been achieved after untiring efforts led by President Trump, who is genuinely a man of peace, who has relentlessly and untiringly worked throughout these months, day in and day out, to make this world a place to live with peace and prosperity.
News broke last week, of course, that the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize would be awarded to Maria Corina Machado, a Venezuelan political activist who has worked tirelessly against the despotic and socialist Maduro regime in that country. Now, I did see some chatter on social media from, shall we say, extremely eager fans of President Trump who were actually dismissive of Machado and insisted that the Nobel Committee screwed up by giving the prize to her instead of to Trump. Stephen Chung, for instance, who works for White House Comm, suggested that in choosing Machado instead of Trump, the committee, quote, proved they placed politics over peace. Now, it's true that the committee has gravely erred in the past, including by prematurely awarding President Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize in 2009, just a few months into his first term, even though Obama had accomplished very, very little, practically nothing in terms of fostering peace. But Machado, unlike Obama, is a perfectly good choice. In fact, she sees herself as a fellow traveler and ally of Trump. In remarks following her receipt of the award, she praised Trump and even dedicated her victory to him. Watch this.
And they decided to dedicate it to President Trump because he deserves it. Because not only has he been involved in only a few months in solving 8 wars, but his actions have been decisive to have Venezuela now at a threshold of freedom after 26 years of tyranny that have destroyed the lives of millions of Venezuela, destabilized the region, and undermined the institutions in the United States.
Good for Machado, who is a beacon of resistance to socialist tyranny. And there's no reason Trump can't win the prize next year, perhaps after achieving even more victories in the eternal quest for peace. Trump certainly deserves the award more than Barack Obama. If any president should get a Nobel Peace Prize, not because of vibes, or because Oslo thinks he's cool, or because he uses lofty rhetoric, but because of actual achievements in the realm of fostering peace, it should be President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump accomplished an amazing feat by bringing
and I'm ready to give him the award.
Israel and Hamas together, and that should certainly be noted, duly noted. No peace prize for me. I don't think that that's appropriate. Amnesty International actually calls Trump's leadership, quote, cruel and chaotic, saying that it's actually a human rights emergency. Some ways that they say that is that he suppresses dissent in the U.S. By attacking news outlets and political enemies, that he has authoritarian tactics to punish any of his critics, like he's going after Letitia James. He targets immigrants through deportations, asylum restrictions, and family separations. We see people in Chicago getting ripped away from their children as they're trying to drop them off to school. He's undermining press freedoms and attacking journalists, literally trying to throw him out of the Pentagon as we speak.
I said give him an award for peace.
He's pulling back LGBTQ rights, marginalizing.
What LGBTQ rights are being pulled back?
He's literally trying to attack the trans community.
Name me an LGBTQ right that's being pulled back.
He's trying to attack the trans community.
How is he attacking? What is he doing to the trans community?
They made the entire Charlie Kirk assassination about trans people when really
the
administration, they immediately tried to make it a political war.
Well,
and so this is not somebody who's peace.
No.
I know, but this doesn't bring peace.
The LGBTQ community is not under attack by any Trump policies.
And he's marginalizing racial minorities by pretending like history doesn't exist. So this is not somebody. He wants to erase the Smithsonian Museum.
So
why would this be somebody that wants a peace prize from me? No. He did a great thing.
You just made a series of false claims.
No, I didn't. What's untrue? He's suppressing dissent. He's suing news outlets for saying bad things about him.
What does that have to do with peace? I agree.
That's not peaceful. That's not peaceful. He's literally he wants to run state-run media in the U.S. That's not peaceful.
This is absolutely
That's not
absurd.
Peaceful. I don't understand. I'm just telling you, I understand we have different opinions here, but I certainly think that while it's notable.
Means? We're talking about ending
he's creating chaos
and
in
strife
the U.S.
between nations of the world.
While
that is
creating
what the prize
chaos
is for.
within his own country. I don't know that deserves a peace prize, is what I'm saying.
Do you think Barack Obama deserved his peace prize?
Yes, in 2009, he came right after President Bush, where he brought down the temperature after we went in and...
Brought down the temperature?
Yes, after we went in after weapons of mass destruction and invaded a country when these weapons did not even exist. Barack Obama came in and brought the temperature down and said we need to denuclearize the entire world. He would love that to be a lofty goal, and that's part of the reason that he's one of the first presidents actually saying that, rather than bolster our nuclear powers.
Okay. So you get awards for saying this is exactly what I said.
Created
it's awards for saying nice things, not for getting it done.
He also created the relationship between Muslim people and made it a more comfortable place after they were attacked constantly after 9/11, like all Muslim people were bad. He changed that rhetoric. Sometimes your tone and the things you say, how you behave, and how you exemplify a presidential leadership quality
Lindsey,
is enough to create
peace. That's the stupidest
peace.
thing I've ever heard.
To you.
That your attitude is more important than results?
This is not results. We don't know what's going to happen yet. He ended the war. I said we should acknowledge
He got the hostages back. How many hostages did Barack Obama get back?
I'm just telling you. I don't think he deserves a peace prize. I said we should acknowledge that President Trump did a good job.
Not a single person would buy this argument in the entire country.
It's my argument. I don't think that he gets a peace prize. I also think that Machado gets a peace prize, but also aligning, and she did, like you said, I agree with you about Venezuela, but the fact that how President Trump went about it by calling counter narcotics missions, counter-terrorism missions, and blowing up boats that could have killed civilians is not peaceful.
She supports that.
She supports him, but that's not what the world does.
She wants those
and
boats
that's terrible.
exploded.
So that headline should read: Nobel Peace Prize gets awarded to the woman who thinks that you should blow up boats that possibly have civilians on them.
Well, then it sounds like you do disagree with the committee.
I don't think that the committee is all perfect. I'm just telling you, President Trump doesn't get it. I'm not on the committee. So my argument is not whether they make bad choices or good choices. It's that President Trump certainly is not peaceful. That's my argument.
I don't, with all due respect, I don't understand how anyone could think Barack Obama was a worthy winner for doing. He ended no conflicts, none. The Afghanistan withdrawal didn't even happen until Trump.
He caused no conflicts. President Trump caused conflicts every single day.
He supported a war
in
Libya.
Look around. Just Google Trump. Conflict.
Not
ignited.
Conflict. I understand that domestically.
He just said he's going to give Ukraine even more weapons.
Ukraine is being invaded.
Exactly, but that's not bringing the temperature down.
Peace doesn't always mean surrender.
You wanted it to be 6 months ago. You thought we should give Russia whatever they're asking for.
No, I didn't say whatever they were asking. I said what they had already taken in the interest of having peace now.
I don't think you should get a peace prize, Robby. You can't kill the messenger. I'm speaking for half the country here. We don't agree.
All right.
The Pentagon has some new rules for members of the press, but not everyone is on board. Coming up, why some outlets say the guidelines violate the First Amendment. Stay with us.
Well, the Defense Department issued new rules for press in the Pentagon, and several major outlets are now saying that they're not going to sign them. These new rules bar journalists from accessing large parts of the Pentagon without an escort, and also stipulate that Secretary Hegseth can revoke reporters' credentials if they ask anyone in the department for information that he has not approved for release.
Now, Hegseth's team has set a deadline for today for reporters to acknowledge the policy in writing, and if they don't, they will have to turn their badges and clear out their workspaces as soon as tomorrow. In response, the New York Times, Washington Post, Atlantic, Reuters, Associated Press, CNN, and even the conservative network Newsmax have stated publicly that they will not sign on to those rules. Reuters explained their decision Monday, writing in a statement, quote, "We steadfastly believe in the press protections afforded by the U.S. Constitution, the unrestricted flow of information and journalism that serves the public interest without fear or favor. The Pentagon's new restrictions erode those fundamental values." And New York Times Washington Bureau Chief Richard Stevenson echoed Reuters' reasoning in a statement of his own words, saying, quote, "Journalists from the New York Times will not sign the Pentagon's revised press pass policy, which threatens to punish them for ordinary news gathering protected by the First Amendment." He continued, the public has a right to know how the government and military are operating.
Meanwhile, Newsmax gave a less detailed explanation of their refusal to sign on, saying simply, "We believe the requirements are unnecessary and onerous and hope that the Pentagon will review the matter further." So far, the Pentagon has been dismissive of reporters' concerns. Chief spokesperson Sean Parnell insists that the rules establish common-sense media procedures, saying, quote, "The policy does not ask for them to agree, just to acknowledge that they understand what our policy is. This has caused reporters to have a full-blown meltdown, crying victim online. We stand by our policy because it's what's best for our troops and the national security of this country." As for Secretary Hegseth, he responded to the Times statement on X with a waving emoji, which many took to mean goodbye. So there's a little bit of semantics going on. They're saying that reporters just have to acknowledge that this policy exists because the Defense Department has the right to set its own policy. It has the right to say there's going to be no press allowed, whatever, in the building. Whether that's a good idea or not is a different matter. So it's not really it's not like the First Amendment doesn't give me or journalists or anyone the right to just access the Pentagon freely. Now, do I think they should have to acknowledge that? Well, maybe they can acknowledge it, but I don't want. Bottom line is, if they obtain some information that was not been approved by the Defense Department for release, they're going to publish it, and that'd be the right thing to do. You could be in both ideological directions with that. What if they found out, what if Newsmax or Fox News or me or someone found out that they still had DEI or something going on in some aspect of the Defense Department, and that's something our viewers, readers, etc. want to care about? We're going to write about that, even if it's embarrassing for the Pentagon and they wouldn't want conservatives to know about it, still going to do it. So, yeah, some policy of silence that enforced by the secretary is not it's no bueno. Not going to do it.
And I think what you want is accurate and impartial news, right? A journalist's job, whether it's for Newsmax, for The Hill, for News Nation, is to go in there and figure out what the story is through the truth. And so some people might not like how the truth turns out, right? And
some
part
people
of it,
in charge might not, yeah.
Right, some people in charge at the Pentagon might not like how the truth turns out, but by signing this document, you're agreeing that, okay, we are going to punish you if you're critical of us, basically, because It's not that you're unaware. Because before this, there would be public outcry, right? If the New York Times gets thrown out of the Pentagon because they reported a story that actually has a slew of facts around the Pentagon or something that's going on that they're not telling the American public, then the New York Times would look like they are amazing. Everybody would praise the story and be happy that they broke the news and had the whistleblower. But then now the Pentagon has the authority through signing this to say, get out, without the public having outcry because they agreed upon it, right? It's like signing a contract. And I just don't think that's how we want to run things. Obviously, I understand for national security, you don't want secrets about how we're going to, look into the next possible altercations with other countries being released early and tipping people off, or how we're going to handle Russia and Ukraine next and what days we're going to do it. But generally, that is not the stuff that is being...
battle plans.
Yes, that's not the stuff that's being leaked.
News outlets.
Because they understand the implications of doing something like that.
Right.
So I think by Hegseth and his team hiding behind the fact that they think people might release some sensitive information. No, it's only sensitive to the people that may be doing something a little bit unsavory, and the America would find out about it. And I find it interesting, and I like that Newsmax has also signed on with this as much as the other outlets that you call.
It could, as I said, it could affect in both directions.
In any way. And
there could be concerns conservatives have, even with a Republican-led Defense Department or a Democratic-led Defense Department, about how it's being operated. Again, the American people, right and left, should have access to more information. More of our government routinely keeps things secret because it wants to keep you in the dark. It wants, if it's not living up to conservative expectations, to MAGA values, well, we should be able to have that information and be able to hold them accountable. So I don't like that whole, well, it's at Pete Hegseth's discretion for what to release. Well, of course, he can operate that way, he can feel that way about it, but we should stand with news organizations on both the right and left that want to call to attention important stories, even if they're not pre-approved by the administration.
And people should be aware on both sides of the aisle that this is a 4-year term. So whatever happens in the next election is going to affect the way we move forward. And if we do get someone, let's say like a Newsom, who wants to play this game that Republicans are playing right now, then what happens gruesome Newsom, Taco Trump. Yeah. So it's like, what happens when we go forward and the next person in charge is like, okay, we're going to make all these rules to affect Democrats. Like, I don't want to live in a country where we keep playing that ping pong. And I say this on so many levels. I say that they shouldn't have prosecuted Trump in the way that they did. And I think that Trump should not be going after Letitia James, Comey, and everyone that he is. But this goes beyond that right now. We're talking about just simple press. Like, imagine Democrats saying, oh, we're going to kick Newsmax out of the Pentagon just because we don't like the way that they're reporting. Like, that's not the way that we want to live. We're getting closer and closer to that uncomfortable thing that I keep bringing up, which is state-run media. You don't want only positive news about either side coming out. And the fact that we have access to so many different perspectives now with YouTube and media that comes out online and the free press now doing their thing with CBS, we have unlimited information, sometimes wrong, and that's problematic, but unlimited. And so when President Trump is allowing new and young media to come into spaces while at the same time Hegseth is trying to block people from reporting anything true, these are like oxymorons. They don't make any sense. Either you're going to open it up and embrace this new media, or you're going to become antiquated and make people distrustful of the media. I
like embracing new media, although some of the new media people they use ask very sycophantic questions, and it's not really hard-hitting journalism. Some of that is okay, because entertainment and personal flavor matter too. It's how people want to get their news, but we still need a little bit of hard.
Yeah, you got to actually be vetted a little bit.
The only part of the policy I don't have a problem with, and I don't know about this. I've not been to the Pentagon. I've not done reporting there, so I don't know. I can't imagine it's not a secure facility. But the idea of journalists just wandering, or I don't even know that takes place, but they can't just, if they can't wander through the building, do they wander through the building? I can't imagine that actually happens, but fine, they need to be escorted around.
I guess pulling to the side somebody who doesn't like the current policy but works there but wants to be the whistleblower, they're concerned about that.
Gotta meet in gotta wear one of those overcoats and be in a parking garage.
Exactly.
With the hat pulled
very
down,
movie-like.
Very deep throat type thing. I got a story for you.
Coming up, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is offering some rare praise for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stick around. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is offering some rare praise for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
The government shutdown is still going strong, and there haven't been any signs of an imminent deal. Jeffries was on MSNBC to discuss the current situation when host Katie Tur brought up how Greene seemed to be splitting with the GOP on certain issues.
Then Tur asked Jeffries whether he had met with Greene yet. Now here's Jeffries' response.
I have not met with her, but it does seem to many of us that she's had a surprisingly enlightened few weeks in terms of her perspective on both the Epstein files and also, Katie, we know one of the reasons why Republicans refuse to come back, why they remain on vacation all across the country, is because they don't want to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, because she would represent the 218th signature for an up or down vote on releasing the Epstein files. Republicans have no interest, zero interest, in trying to address the health care crisis that they visited upon the American people, even though you've got Republicans now, most prominently Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's making clear this is not a made-up crisis. It's a real thing.
Speaker Johnson also spoke on the shutdown and issued a warning. Let's watch that.
We're barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history unless Democrats drop their partisan demands and pass a clean, no-strings-attached budget to reopen the government and pay our federal workers. We're on duty here, and we can return quickly to legislative session as soon as you turn the lights back on, Chuck Schumer, and end this unnecessary hardship for the American people.
Look, I think that the government shutdown, I said this over and over again, is a failure of Congress to do its job. The one thing we agree on is that Congress could do better. However, that said, the Democrats, just looking at this from a macro level, have a lot more to prove in this standoff. So they were willing to go as long as the longest shutdown, which I believe is 35 days, because they have nothing that the party is actually standing for right now. And healthcare is a winning issue for Democrats historically and right now.
But these were
and
subsidies.
I know they were COVID subsidies and
Yeah.
this, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is simply saying that people are going to look at their wallets and check out at the doctor's office and say, oh my gosh, my payments are higher for all these XYZ things when I leave the doctor. And that's going to make people uncomfortable, and Republicans will lose because of it. And so it's a lose-lose issue. This is one of those rare times where people are looking at what's going on and going to see how they're affected in January and be frustrated. No matter if you say COVID, no matter when you say the subsidies are in, Democrats are fighting for something that American people want to make sure is protected.
I don't think
and
the
so they're going to go
further
to the end
distort
of
the cost of health care.
they're going to go to the end of time with this, I think, because when you think about what just happened in November, they lost the election. They have no power in Senate.
Dems.
Yes, Democrats. They lost the election. They have no power in the Senate or Congress really at all, and not the majority. And so if they push this through, it is a huge win for Democrats, and they will see this as the party that saved healthcare and saved Americans money
Look,
around
I
around the country.
appreciate and agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene's independence to an extent. I did a radar on it yesterday. I agree with her. Her mild criticism of the tariffs and some aspects of the immigration policy. I agree with that. I agree with her ideological consistency on Epstein. It's the Democrats had no interest in releasing these things until they thought they were tied to Trump, even though they're not. So I roll my eyes at Jeffries suddenly caring about this issue. He doesn't care at all, but she's stuck to principles on that, and that's good. The healthcare one, she's getting a lot of attention and praise from Dems because, right, they want to double, quadruple, triple, extend subsidy, socialize the entire system, have it cost trillions that are dispersed among the population, have us be some Canada-style system where people wait and wait and wait and wait and wait for care. Nobody wants that.
People
but the
are
system is
waiting
not
and
good.
waiting and waiting for relief from an economy that's uncomfortable that President Trump said he would deliver. And I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene sees the writing on the wall when we have immigration policies that are affecting the economy, tariffs that are affecting the economy, and now people's prices can literally go up next year. I think she sees that writing on the wall that people were voting with their wallets. And it's going to be a problem for her and many other Republicans in a few months if they don't get this sorted out. So this is one thing that they actually have the jurisdiction to get sorted out without asking President Trump.
I think this will go on for quite some time, but we will see.
Next on Rising, former President Barack Obama isn't holding back on Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to American cities. Stick around.
And welcome back to Rising. Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
We're talking about Nobel Peace Prize winner Barack Obama. When Barack Obama speaks, people listen, not just because he's a former president, but because he knows what leadership rooted in empathy sounds like. On comedian Mark Moron's podcast, Obama didn't mince words about Donald Trump's latest move to deploy military forces into American cities. He warned that America's democracy is, quote, being weakened deliberately, and here's part of what he had to say.
When you have military that can direct force against their own people, that is inherently corrupting.
Think about that. Soldiers trained for war, taking orders to patrol the same neighborhoods they swore to protect. That's not just un-American, it's dangerous. Since taking office for the second time, President Trump has made law and order his personal brand, sending the National Guard to Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Memphis, Portland, and most recently, Chicago, Obama's own hometown. A federal appeals court had since blocked the deployment on Chicago streets, but allowed the Guard to remain under federal control. The Trump administration claims it's all about protecting federal buildings during protests over ICE operations, but Obama isn't buying that.
If I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas, a lot of crime there, and I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me how
Oh, yeah.
Fox News would have responded.
Now, that's a fair point, because this isn't about protecting buildings. It's about power. And it's about redefining who the enemy is. You'll remember late last month, in an address to military leaders, Trump described civil disturbances as the, quote, enemy from within. He had this to say.
And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
Training grounds. Our neighborhoods aren't boot camps. Our citizens are not insurgents. Obama countered that vision perfectly.
We don't want masked, folks with rifles and machine guns patrolling our streets.
Yeah.
We want cops on the beat who know the neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
and the kids around, and that's how we keep the peace around here.
Now, under the Passe Comitatus Act of 1878, it's generally illegal to use the military for civilian law enforcement. The Insurrection Act, which Trump has threatened to invoke, was meant for true emergencies like rebellions, invasions, and moments when states asked for help. The last time it was used was during 1992, during the Los Angeles riots, and even then, at the governor's request. So the question isn't whether the president can use the military this way, it's whether he should. Because when we start treating our own citizens like combatants, we lose something far greater than control. We lose trust, humanity, and the very fabric of our democracy. Crime in our cities will not be solved by troops in tactical gear. It'll be solved by investing in people through jobs, education, and community-based policing that actually connects, not divides. Militarizing our streets might look strong on TV, but the real strength isn't about force. It's about long-term collaboration between state and federal officials.
This interview is a good reminder of just the different epistemic bubbles we live in, because this is a long-running podcast, this Mark Maron guy, that I have never heard of and never seen before, and this is the last episode. And I guess it's a big deal for liberal people.
It's been 16 years
that
he's been going on. I said his name wrong earlier. It's Maron.
I don't know who he is, but I watched some of it. It was fine. Look,
Isn't Obama so well-spoken, so peaceful, so noble?
Oh, God. Well, he's well-spoken, I'll give you that, and I enjoy listening to him because it's insightful into the liberal mindset. Look, I don't have a problem with most of the clips you played from Obama there. I, too, don't think our cities should be used as training grounds for our military. I, too, don't think the national soldiers are the right response to crime problems in most cities, although they have improved things in the nation's capital, which is partly run by the federal government, so it's a little bit different. I would not send them into cities and states where their help is not wanted. But Obama says that the answer is more local beat cops. Okay, sure. Well, then we need to hire and train more police officers. And the slogan of his ideological movement was to abolish the police. Where was he? Maybe I missed it. Maybe he was on Mark Maron's podcast 5 years ago and I just missed it because I've never heard of this person in my life, talking about how idiotic his own ideological simpaticos, the media environment, the activist environment that he is a part of, who wanted to reduce law enforcement to nothing, how stupid that was. Maybe he was speaking out about it, I just don't remember.
When you're done, let me know.
Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay.
He was out there speaking about
Defund the
that?
police did not mean to literally have zero police officers. Defund the police meant to use some of the resources to invest in more responses to issues that wouldn't leave people being dead when that's not the right response for police to come shoot and act and think later. To have community policing, people that understand the area, people who have psychological issues, to have conversations. Yes, it is. Your interpretation of, you just talked about the bubbles we live in. So what I understand about that was an actual call for the violence to stop and be an immediate response to anything that might be scary to an officer.
I was hosting this show during the time. Not with you, but with other people, with people who are much further to your left, to be frank, and they were serious about defunding.
So
they meant
I don't know, and not one
police.
person that literally, even in D.C., right? I can tell you that I don't think the National Guard should be here. Now, them being here, does everything seem more calm? People like when there's people around and like feeling safer? Fine. I know that that's not a real solution. That's not a long-term solution in any state. I think states should govern themselves. And so two things can be true. I don't know which fool would say the police should have $0 so that if somebody robs your home, there's no one to call. Nobody was saying that I knew, realistically. Maybe some people were being extreme, but not a police to be found is is not a real solution anywhere.
Longtime viewers,
That doesn't make any sense. Somebody wanted zero police.
Not a totally made up.
People wanted
thing
zero.
by me.
I don't think that. I know somebody could have been arguing that, but I don't think that that's a good point to argue zero police. I think that funds could be allocated so that police that actually understand the community are encouraged and built up, and that there are more solutions for people. Like you said, the kids outside of your neighborhood, or young kids that are running around, maybe doing crime. Some of them weren't. The point is, the parents. The leadership is lacking. They need after-school activities. They need things to keep them busy. They are distracted and have a lack of parenting, which may not be a fault of their parents who may work several jobs. And maybe there are several economic reasons why the parents may work 2 jobs. There are so many systemic issues that we could try to solve to make crime go down, but focusing on bringing more police that are unrelated to the community at all with huge machine guns, like President Obama was saying, if they're National Guard, is not the solution. You know that and I know that. And so defund the police, to circle back to your point that doesn't make any sense, is not having zero police officers. It's actually just putting some funds in other places.
Right. I would have picked a different slogan then. I don't know.
It was I said on air, look, Google it. It was a terrible slogan. We can agree on that. It was a terrible slogan for what I understood it to mean. Now, most extreme people, just like extreme people in your party, might have said it, went all the way to the wall with it and said no police at all. But I don't think that's a good solution ever. Do you agree with everyone in the extreme right of
Well, no, but I generally think that I think that the words you use generally mean the thing that you mean. I think people wielding that slogan meant it in its literal sense, that they wanted to reduce funding for police to almost nothing. They thought police services, law enforcement services, could be replaced 95% with
So your response to Obama saying let's not do this,
by reducing crime, by giving more welfare money.
Your response to Obama saying let's not do this is, well, you said this 5 years ago. He doesn't think this is a good. So why not just tell? What do you want Trump to do then? What he's doing is not working.
What I want Trump to do is collect his Nobel Peace Prize. I think Barack Obama should have to give him his police prize.
That is ridiculous.
I think it should be like the green jacket at the Masters tournament.
Somebody has to agree with me.
I think he'll put it on
Find me on social media and tell
president.
me that I'm not crazy. Some Democrats are sounding the alarm over comments from the Trump administration. Up next, why they feel the White House is trying to bypass Congress to achieve its goals. Stay with us.
Congress, who needs them? Not I. It seems like President Trump doesn't think he does needing them either. I butchered that. He doesn't need them. We don't need them. It's fine. According to a new report from the Wall Street Journal, the administration seems to view Congress as more of a procedural annoyance than a co-equal branch of government. Quote, inside the White House, top advisors joke that they are ruling Congress with an iron fist. And Steve Bannon has reportedly likened Congress to the Duma, the Russian assembly that is largely ceremonial. And the president reportedly boasted to his advisors, quote, everyone's on my side now. They were fighting me last time.
The article gave examples of congressional Republicans reportedly bending to Trump's will, citing Mike Johnson's attendance at Stephen Miller's 40th birthday party and agreeing to the name the Big Beautiful Bill over objections from some Republicans. In response to the article, California Governor Gavin Newsom posting sarcastically to X, nothing to see here, and columnist Richard Hanania, adding, they're openly celebrating the Putinization. Okay, you guys are trying to of the Republican Party, the Putinization of the Republican Party.
Meanwhile, Jonah Goldberg wrote in a post of his own, quote, it's almost like the entire institution should be ashamed of itself, linking back to an article of his where he argues that Congress is to blame for any presidential overreach. Yeah, I mean, it's Trump's party and...
What?
What?
What are you saying? This just said how Trump is completely disregarding Congress and trying to break the law. I think when Steve Bannon is applauding what he's doing, he said he's doing things now that he wouldn't even consider in the first term. He's jackhammering away on levels you haven't seen before. That is dangerous and scary. He disregards Congress often, most recently by blowing up Venezuela's ships when he's supposed to, if he wants to commit an act of war, he goes through Congress, but he called it terrorism instead of counter-narcotics in order to get away with it. The president is just circumnavigating. He's trying to figure out current ways to implement the Insurrection Act so he can once again circumnavigate the Supreme Court that's telling him do not send military into certain cities. And he's just always trying to figure out how to get around something, which is not appropriate. We don't live in a dictatorship, Robby. I don't understand how you're just reading this and even the casualty of your tone as you were reading that he's just skipping over Congress. We both think Congress is ineffective.
They want to be skipped over.
I certainly don't think that President Trump should just make all the rules and people should just bend the knee. Even when it comes down to things like the Big Beautiful Bill, everyone getting in lockstep, knowing knowing that people actually knew there were things in there that would be detrimental, like raising the debt to all fiscal conservatives, like the health care, like Josh Hawley was talking about, and bringing up costs for people.
Josh Hawley's a rhino.
Rhino, Tino, I don't care, Taco. Yeah. The point is, people were concerned, and everyone just decided to bend the knee and push this bill through that is sloppy and not big and beautiful. Yeah, so I don't understand. Like, how are you saying that that's a good thing that Congress just says yes to everything? Well, I mean, you're smirking about it, like, well, Trump's in charge. It's like, no, we don't live live under one man's king's rule. We have 3 branches of government that he's trying to circumnavigate.
Unfortunately, we do live under one man's rule now. Yeah, Congress doesn't want to do their job. Trump won the election. The Republican Party won control of both houses of Congress, and they don't want to obstruct Trump whatsoever. It's a very perverse incentive. So we just don't have co-equal branches of government anymore. If the president and Congress are controlled by the same party, then it's whatever the president wants. If they're controlled by opposite parties, then it's refusal to get anything done. Of course, we're in this situation with the shutdown because the quirk of the Senate is you need 60 votes, not a majority, but 60 votes to accomplish things. I don't know how much longer that's going to last because they could change that policy.
Just remember, it's a ping pong. It can go back and forth.
There's always it would not be a good idea to change it because, well, maybe it would be a good idea to change it. I don't think Democrats are going to have a majority in the Senate like ever again.
It's like stacking the Supreme Court. Do you want to continue? I mean, we can have 50
Well,
Supreme
it's a
Court
little
justices.
different than stacking the Supreme Court because the Senate determines its own rules, and they determined this rule a long time ago, and it's not a rule that makes sense. But it's different than setting the number of Supreme Court justices there's going to be.
But my point is that it's party persuasion that we don't want.
There's no, like, it doesn't say in the Constitution, legislation shall require 60 votes.
It's something that
to get out
was
of the
made
Senate,
up
right?
by
It's something
people,
they
yes.
decided later because of it's the filibuster.
But the point is the back and forth will happen when Democrats. I know you said they're never going to be running the Senate again, but let's say they are. You'll be
never say never.
annoyed and crippled if that happens.
I don't want any legislation to ever get approved, basically. So I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the government being shut down. I'm fine with.
You're fine with President Trump's impulsive decisions.
This is fine.
No, that's not a good stance, Robby. Shame on you. Where are your parents? I'm going to call them. This is crazy.
Well,
you should want more. Come on. You should want more from our president. You should want more from our Congress. You should want more. And even though we can get frustrated and we can joke, we should want people to do better, because the fact that people are just going against their true values, things that constituents actually want, the fact that the president is trying to find ways actively right now to implement the Insurrection Act and circumnavigate decisions by the Supreme Court, these are all things that we don't want to see happen.
Circumvent.
Circumnavigate. Okay, he's going around it.
It's Columbus Day. You're triggering your Columbus Day. You're waving the Italian flag for that one. Circumventing the Supreme Court. He's not doing that, though, because the Supreme Court rules in his favor sometimes, rules against him other times. He has
you can't always get your way.
Right, that's fine. But what I've said, he's not defied a Supreme Court decision. He hasn't. He's done what the Supreme Court says. And as long as we have that ultimate check, we're still living in a democracy. We're still living in a we have a Republican form of government with oversight by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has stepped up to fill the legislative void left by Congress not wanting to do anything, and the Supreme Court now weighs in on is stronger, more strident in saying this is constitutional, this is not, as the federal government does more and is unchecked by Congress. Contrary, yes, to what our founders wanted, unfortunately, but the Supreme Court is still fulfilling that function, and as long as it does, I don't think we're in a crisis.
And if one branch of government is failing, don't worry about it. At least there's two checking each other. Mm-hmm. That's fine. And then President Trump will continue to just bombard local cities and states with his rules and just do whatever he wants and make people uncomfortable and go against the wishes of people that actually live there and the constituents that voted their local officials to lead them specifically. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just have this mass chaos that's, a Band-Aid over a much bigger problem that we need solutions for, which is just crime in our country or immigration. He just does it the Trump way rather than the way that Congress can actually vote on and make a succinct way forward.
You know what other president defied the local state authorities to implement?
Don't talk about COVID.
Okay. Eisenhower, when he ordered the schools to desegregate and sent the National Guard to protect little black children while they were going to school.
Wait, okay, so
I'm just saying, you can't say that it's never wrong for the federal government, or that it's always wrong for the federal government to overrule state authorities.
Are those two situations different to you in any way? Like sending the National Guard to try to...
I just want to know what the rules are.
Presenting the National Guard to try to drop crime in cities that
Why is that any less?
is different.
Is that less appeal? Is that less important than desegregation?
I mean, I don't know. Do you think we should go back to being segregated?
No, I'm saying we should get rid of
I'm trying to
segregation and
understand.
we should get rid of crime. I'm saying both of these things are worthy problems, or say no. States can do whatever they want, including be crime-ridden and be segregated and be awful, and that's their problem. I just want it consistent. I want it one way or the other.
Okay, but you're bringing up Eisenhower, and I'm talking about present day.
Okay.
We're talking about present day.
Okay.
So President Trump needs to be checked, and that's the whole point of balance of power.
That's what they would have said about Eisenhower.
No, but we're not talking about ancient history. We're talking about
I care
right
more
now.
about what the principle is. That's what I want to know. Yeah. All right, next up, Bari Weiss is being named editor-in-chief of CBS News, which has garnered mixed reactions from some, enthusiastic reactions from me. But coming up, we'll look at what Last Week Tonight host John Oliver has to say about it.
Last Week Tonight host John Oliver blasted Bari Weiss's takeover of CBS during his show over the weekend.
Oliver expressed various concerns, saying she didn't have any hard news or television experience. He also said that the overwhelming theme of her publication, The Free Press, is about how the left has gone too far and that the pieces there will just reinforce one's opinion.
Let's listen.
It is especially alarming to have someone doing it who has spent years putting out work that, in my opinion, is at best irresponsible and at worst deeply misleading. And look, it is not just about Bari Weiss being at CBS. It's about the fact that CBS is now under the control of someone who thinks that she and her editorial sensibility make her a good fit for the job, and who, incidentally, is reportedly preparing a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, home of CNN and, HBO.
He might have a new boss soon. Oliver also dissected and critiqued individual pieces that have been published in the Free Press that he says have been contradicted by other outlets. One of those stories was by Jamie Reed, who worked at a pediatric gender clinic and blew a whistle on the treatment that young people were receiving there. And another was on how photos of certain Gazan children who had become symbols for starvation lacked important context, which is that those children had other serious ailments. That's what the Free Press claimed. Commentary magazine editor John Podhoretz wrote on X, John Oliver makes $15 million a year for a show that he does once a week with a writing staff of about 250,000. Bari Weiss has made something out of nothing. His condescension toward her is the definition of unlearned. Yeah, there was I didn't watch the whole segment, although I saw screenshots of it. There's a screenshot of it that has the magazine I write for, Reason, next to like National Review and Jacobin and some other, like, oh my God, too many opinion places or something. I don't know. He's an opinion guy, so I don't see what the problem was. Look, John Oliver is kind of funnier than some of these other late night hosts.
Wow, you got a kind of funny out of you.
I can see that he is funny. I just totally disagree with him, and that's fine. And if HBO is happy with his perspective, whatever. And if someday they're not, too bad. I would see and hear and at least understand his feedback if his feedback was the Free Press is overly focused on the flaws of the left and he would like more coverage of the flaws of the right, although I think this misunderstands that the Free Press does criticize Trump, particularly on foreign policy. But he's saying that their coverage of how bad the left is misguided. And I got news for you. The left is pretty bad, and the coverage of how bad wokeness and cancel culture and all those things are is accurate and reflects the sentiments of the American people, and there is money to be made in exposing it because that's why the company's worth $150 million. Liberals don't understand this, but they will as the left comes for them too. But he's on the left, and he agrees with wokeness, and he wants everyone who, doesn't share his social, cultural sensibilities to be canceled, so fine.
From this story and this perspective, I'm just looking at it as a young woman business owner that also is in the space of creating content. Mine is more documentaries. She's creating articles and has the entire ecosystem where she amassed 1.5 million readers. That's no small feat. Something that John Oliver was given a platform, and people come with HBO. If you put a show on there, people will watch. It's different than building it up from the bottom and leaving a place because you said how you vehemently disagree with something and then being a success. So I watch her story and I think it's one of resilience. I think it's very smart, savvy. And I think with CBS being third in line after ABC and NBC, in their news gathering. They need to figure out how to be on the new and next wave with people that are young and thoughtful and in this space really rigorously fighting to make noise. That said, she has a parallel president of CBS News that they don't report to each other. So they can spar and debate, and I think that's the best times to have dialogue about how to move forward in the news organization. They both report to the president of Paramount. I have no issue with her being there and being another voice in the room because she's another, not the only.
Right.
And I think people need to differentiate that. The only problem I had an issue with was a guy named Trump's former Japan ambassador named Kenneth Weinstein, who they promoted to be the CBS ombudsman. And that means that he was going to comb through and make sure that the news wasn't biased in any way. And he used to work for President Trump. So I thought that was a ridiculous role for somebody who was partisan. But, other than that, I think CBS is just trying to find its footing after being sued for millions of dollars.
One thing I wanted to mention, this happened a few days ago, we haven't discussed it yet. It was reported that Bari sent an email to all CBS employees just asking them to write her back in the next few days and just explain what their job is, what they do, what they think could be made better. Very standard request of employees.
That sounds Elon Musk-ish.
Well, okay, but it's a standard request of new bosses. And the employees union for CBS said, no one answer this. Like, come on, it's a new boss.
That sounds very Elon Musk-ish. He literally then proceeded to fire folks after they answered that email. That's a very spooky email from somebody coming in. Oh, you didn't write. Let's say, those employee reviews for the year?
Yeah, we all have to do
One
that.
time I got scolded at an old job because I just, I knew I was a good employee. If I work somewhere, I'm knocking it out the park, right? But I just wrote 3 little bullet points and then it got sent to the president of my department. And they were like, is she not doing anything? Because they didn't check in with me day to day, and I was behind the scenes, and I wrote 3 little bullet points. So what if you don't have time to be writing that? You're actually doing a job. News is a heavy lift to actually. So what if you don't have time to answer Bari Weiss's email about what you do? Ask my manager, have a meeting.
Probably answer the email, but it's a reasonable request in my view.
And it's reasonable to be scared about that after what Elon Musk did. Tell me what you do.
People who aren't
and then get fired.
Jobs should get fired. I'm sorry. All right. By the way, John Oliver, did you know he once made fun of Rising?
Wow.
He made fun of me.
Are you honored?
He called me Baby Ryan Seacrest.
Is that why that's in your bio?
Yes. That was a moniker he bestowed upon me.
I love that. Okay.
Stuff.
Well, that does it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you tomorrow.
Later.